Thank you. So my name is Amy Larwood. I'm the Interim Director of Development and Communications here at Families First. So we're excited to be talking about Families First expansion into Western Massachusetts today. So we'll start off with remarks from our Executive Director, Sue Kovitz, and a presentation on our expansion from Regional Director, Jill Brevik, and Program Manager, Izzy Rivera. So before we get started, I just have a couple of housekeeping notes for people. So please just stay muted for the duration of the program, but there will be an opportunity for a Q&A following the presentation, which will be about 25 minutes. If there's any questions you have along the way, you can go ahead and put them in the chat to the Families First moderator, and we will get to them towards the end. Also, if you need any technical assistance, feel free to put that in the chat as well. All right, and so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sue.
Thank you, Amy. As the Executive Director of Families First, I am very excited to welcome all of you to our second Leadership Luncheon this year. And I also am very much looking forward to spotlighting Western Mass today. I want to begin just with a quick introduction to Families First for those of you who may be new to the organization. We believe that all parents have the power to shape their children's future and their communities. We are focused in early childhood when brain development is rapid and when parents play the role of being a child's first teacher. Through a research-based parenting program and a parent leadership program, we offer parents an opportunity to build social connections and learn some new strategies and information about parenting and their role as advocates in the community. We have been growing our work really throughout Greater Boston, but today you're going to hear about our expansion to Western Mass. We've been building towards this replication of both of our programs for several years. We conducted a landscape analysis of various areas across the state. Springfield and Holyoke actually stood out as communities where there's a really, I think, already a great focus on innovative, collaborative early childhood efforts. And yet there isn't enough support really for parents of young children. And with an investment from Lego Foundation to start and then joined by other local funders who I think are here today, we were able to build out the work in Western Mass. So here is my opportunity to introduce Jill Brevik to you. I really am so pleased that Jill is the Regional Director of Western Mass. She has over 10 years experience in development and nonprofit management. She was actually the former Interim Development Director here at Families First before she headed out to Amherst, where she lives with her family. I honestly will never forget the day I offered Jill the job. She told me she was so excited to bring the work out to Western Mass. It really was as if she knew it was coming and she was waiting for this call. She is dedicated, she's passionate about the mission, and she's taken on this role successfully. She'll take it from here. I am really confident that you will enjoy hearing from both Jill. She will introduce Israel Rivera as well. So without further ado, Jill, spotlighted here. So I'm going to lead us off with a couple of quick questions, and then I think Jill will be introducing Israel, and they'll sort of do a little question and answer back and forth as well. So Jill, welcome again. Can you start us off by telling us about the project's origin from your perspective and what led you to take this on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So just thanks again to everyone who's here today. I am so happy to be here and talking about this project. It has been a huge part of my life for the last 8 months. So I am happy to be here and share, and would love, any questions at the end. I'm excited to kind of hear what people want to hear about it, right? Because there's a lot to say. But for all of you who are joining us, thank you. And I see faces from all over. I see people from here. I see folks. I see Kevin. Hi. People from all aspects of the organization and all over the place, which is cool, and cool that we can do that. So this is also a really great time to be talking about this work. We're actually moving from the planning phase to the implementation phase, and we are officially running programs in Western Mass as of May 4th. And then on May 19th, we launched in Holyoke, so we're running. And there were a lot of people involved in that, and a lot of people kind of put their all into that. And it, as Sue said, was kind of a long time coming for us as an organization, and it's getting real. We're doing it. So I can kind of walk you through briefly the kind of origin of the project. As Sue said, I've been with Families First since 2014, and that was before my kids were born. And so I have grown a lot with the organization and learned a lot, both work-wise and at home personally. It's been a really helpful place to work through all of that, and have been fortunate to have great mentors like Sue along the way. And so, yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of ways we were ready for this to come our way, right? We had been thinking and talking about replication, and the program model was built to be replicated, right? It was a model that can kind of work in different places. And the pandemic hit, and a lot of our plans were kind of put on hold. We were focused on how do we get this out to people during this time, and but we didn't really stop thinking about growth, right? Like Sue and I would still talk about it. I'd still think about it like while I was driving, doing whatever, and still thinking about what that would look like. And so when we were kind of unsure of what would happen, right? Everything was so uncertain. It was hard to know, to make any kind of plans, right? And just kind of waiting for that okay go moment for us. And so as Sue said, we got this notification from the Lego Foundation. They were such a great early supporter, and really gave us that push to get started. And yeah, I got the call. It was a no-brainer for me. And the staff kind of all rallied behind it too, which I think was another cool aspect of like the very early phase of this work, was that, as an organization, our staff has been through a lot of change together. We're an organization that doesn't just say this is what we do and that's it. We kind of grow and change a lot, and so we kind of are used to that. And so everybody kind of jumped in and rallied around this and pushed it forward together.
That's great. And it's great to hear. I know it was a lot in the beginning, having been along for the ride with you on this journey. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like the first 4 or 5 months before you introduced Israel? Can you just sort of talk a little bit about that and what you had to do really? Where was your focus, and how did you direct your energy in those first few months?
Sure. Yeah. And I think, I was the only staff person out here, but also because of the virtual work environment, I didn't feel as alone as maybe I would have if pre-pandemic, and was still, pretty connected to the staff in the central office and Eastern Mass. And I really spent the first few months just meeting with anyone I could too. So, right, going out and talking to anyone who would meet with me and following this kind of chain of introductions. So we had some really great people in the beginning who connected us early on, and it meant that I wasn't reaching out cold to people, right? Sending emails to people who didn't know me, right? I was kind of following along this chain of connections, and so I owe those people a lot, because that was really meaningful in the beginning, and continues to be to have that. We were really received well. People booked meetings with us quickly and were interested to hear what we had to say. And I just wanted to say too, I think also, like, I think about this a lot, that I leaned on some of the things that are core values to Families First. So respect, listening, like active listening, really listening, not just waiting for our turn to say, here's what we have to offer. But really, I took a few months and really did mostly kind of tried to learn who are the key players, who's doing what are these collaborations, what's happening, where are the gaps, where are we needed? We don't want to go and overlap something that someone else is doing that's similar, that they've been working hard on, and now we come in, right? Trying to really go where there were those gaps. That it's not easy to figure out, but it took a lot of, time and listening and learning. And, not saying we're from Boston, we know this works and this is what we need to do. This is what you guys need to do, right? But at the same time, leaning on the work in Boston and the outcomes and telling that story too. And because we do have great success and things to share. And so that helped, that going through that process kind of helped bring us far enough along. We got some great supporters on board, and some of whom I see here today. I mean, we have got support in addition to Lego from the Davis Foundation, the Community Foundation of Western Mass, People's Bank, phenomenal supporters in the community, as well as some of our existing funders who were interested in seeing this happen for us as an organization. And then some partners, and I see some folks from some of our partners out here. So our early partners, Springfield Works, HMR, VOC, and Holyoke Housing, kind of as we got those foundational partnerships and funders on board, we started to really be able to move things forward. And we were able to hire someone else. So I wasn't the only person out here. And so in January of this year, 2022, we posted for a program manager position. And we were so fortunate to have Israel Rivera join our team in February. And so I think, so I can introduce Israel.
Great. Yep. I'll stop asking my questions now and let you and Israel take it away. Thanks.
We're spotlighted here. Okay, here we go. So I've had the pleasure of working with Israel for 3 months now. He has brought so much to this work and is a longtime leader in the community, both in family and community engagement and working with the schools and different organizations, but also a big advocate for early childhood youth development, particularly in Holyoke, which is his hometown and where he serves on the city council. He's held positions with the Holyoke Public Schools, with UMass Amherst, with One Holyoke Community Development Corporation, Mass Higher Holyoke. He's brought positive change on so many levels throughout the community throughout his career. So we are super fortunate that he's on our team now. And I'll let him kind of tell you a little bit about himself. But so I'll just ask you, Izzy, to kick us off. So we're going to keep this question and answer kind of thing going. So I'll ask you, what kind of motivated you to take this job and join our team?
First, I guess I want to say thank you to all the people that are here attending and actually taking their time out of actually lunchtime to listen to us, right? Present our program and the ideas that we have come up with, or you guys have developed, and I've joined in trying to develop now since February. I also would like to thank Jill and Sue and Magda for hiring me, right, at the same time, and Marissa and Karen for training me on the other pieces of the organization that I needed to know. There's a lot of ins and outs with regards to some of the things, but I guess for me, when I applied for the job, I had just resigned from being the community engagement, the family access and community engagement director for the Holyoke Public Schools for the district. And I felt like I also have a 2-year-old. I just had my wife had a baby recently. So at the time I had a 3-month-old, a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old. I figured this role would allow me to continue to be a community activist, right? But in a different role, and be a dad and learn how to be a better dad, right? Throughout the process. Plus, as being a community organizer within the city of Holyoke for like the last almost 10 years. 10 years, yeah. I've noticed that there is a variety of different programming that are for kids, and there isn't many programs that are focused more on parenting. There is something that I mentioned to Josh, who's the mayor now of Holyoke, when we met with him recently, was that like we could do all this programming and all this investing into kids, but when they get home, if the parents can't continue to follow up with what's being invested in the schools and in the after school programming, everything that's being invested in it just gets torn, like peeled back like an onion, more or less. So when the opportunity came, I interviewed. It was a pretty good experience. I also got recruited for another school job, and I ended up having to choose between the two. Jill made it easy for me to choose Families First. And so did meeting with Sue as well. So I also took to the fact that this is a new program or coming to Western Mass. And I felt like it was an opportunity for me to be able to use some of my networks and my connections out here in Western Mass to kind of help this organization that's actually going to bring value to Western Mass, put roots in the ground, more or less. Yeah, that's pretty much.
That's great. Yeah. Maybe you could talk a little bit more too about that? Like, you've spent your career working with families and supporting
So
communities.
yeah, I could talk. Yeah, so I started working at the Boys and Girls Club when I was 13 years old. I worked there till I was about 19 years old. Unfortunately, I had a hiccup and was incarcerated for about 5 years. I came out in 2012. I got my associate's degree from Holyoke Community College, got my bachelor's degree from University of Massachusetts, and I'm in the process of getting my master's degree in public administration at Westfield State. My thing, when I first got out of prison, I was working with adjudicated youth coming out of prison. My job was to be a role model first, and then it grew from being a role model to actually being a workforce development coordinator, teaching them how to write resumes, teaching them how to present themselves and their records while in an actual job interview. So that way they can overlook your record, or you can get to places where I am now. Technically, I'm a program manager at Families First. I'm a city councilor, and I also worked in a variety of different school settings. So like for me, it has been trying to do that and motivating youth and families in the community of Holyoke mostly, because that's where I've been, but I have connections throughout most of the valley, actually, to be honest. But yeah, that my work with the Boys and Girls Club, then Mass Hire, One Holyoke Community Development Corporation, which was in the neighborhood I grew up in, made it easier for me to actually do the outreach and actually connect the neighborhood to the nonprofit organization that's in their neighborhood. There's working in the schools. I partnered with the schools. Before I actually worked in the schools, I partnered with the schools, organizing a variety of different events to bring parents into the schools so that they're used to being engaged at the school and visiting the schools on a different level versus just being called in because their kid did something or because they have a parent-teacher conference. This is using the school as a community space in general. Yeah.
Great. That's great. So what like through that experience, what are the gaps? Like, where do you see Families First programs supporting the community the most?
So for me, like I mentioned before, there's a variety of programming throughout all of Western Mass that focuses on kids, right? There's not many when it comes to the focus on parents. And the niche that I feel like Families First has, which kind of interested me the most about the programming or the organization, is that we focus solely on parenting, right? Nothing else. There's no other piece to it. We just do the power of parenting, and then the new follow-up is the parent leadership program, right? But that's another piece that we could possibly talk about another day. But for me, where it comes down to it is that this is just a focus on the parents, right? And we also work on trying to provide them childcare and food at the same time. So that way, if they have any issues with regards to I got to cook or I need someone to watch my kids, they can bring the kids and they can have food at the space. I think I lost my train of thought, but yeah.
No, that's great. Do you have questions for me?
Yeah, I do actually. I guess now that I've been working here, some of the stuff is kind of just starting to roll out, but this is one of the questions that I had when I first got hired is where do you see Families First in Western Mass within the next 3 to 4 years or so, future plans?
Yeah, so I mean, it was right. We were so focused on kind of getting ramped up and getting going. And I feel like a lot of the early conversations too were with people all over the place, right? So really trying to get the lay of the land and trying to think about long-term planning. But I think really, like, to answer that question more, I feel like my vision is to really have this turn into a community movement, right? Like, so we're seeing this happen in Boston, and I really want it to happen out here, right? We're like we bring the program right to the community, but then the community kind of takes it over, and building up the parent leadership work, building up this pipeline of parents who are coming out of the programs, and like stepping out of the way as much as we can, and elevating those parents to kind of take this on. The other thing I give a lot of thought to is the advocacy piece, and thinking about the platforms that we do have as staff members of the organization and as leaders in the community, and as an organization, as Families First, right? As we grow and our voice gets louder as we, serve more areas and we are more involved, really trying to think about how we can support tackling some of these bigger issues that are causing families stress, right? Like, so we have sessions in our program on stress management. So we're doing it on that side. Like, okay, how do you deal with stress, and how do you make sure that stress doesn't affect your child? And how do you still have a positive relationship despite being faced with stressful things like lack of childcare and nutritious food, and, all of these things that are surrounding families that are bringing them stress. And so it's like, we're on the forefront, like, so we're like, life is stressful. So like having a program that helps you deal with that is important. But as an organization, being then behind on the other side, trying to do something about, and help parents have a voice to help kind of solve some of those bigger problems, I think. And then maybe I will bring it back to like today, right? So we're, as I said in the beginning, we're like doing a lot right now. It's a really busy time for Izzy and I in our work. And so Izzy, maybe you can like kind of give everybody a sense of what's going on. Like, what are we running right now?
Oh yeah, talk about the programming we're currently running, right?
Yeah.
So fortunately, we were able to launch, I believe, May 4th was our first launching of the Power of Parenting in Springfield in collaboration with Home City Housing, or HMR. I believe they're a partnership. We first got about 30. I got about 30 parents registered. We're averaging about 15 parents that are attending. We're now at our 4th week. We just did our 4th session yesterday. We just selected 2 parent leaders, which is a pretty awesome experience, especially interviewing them and going through the process. We also have one of the parenting educators here, I believe, Angelina Madera.
Hi, Angie.
Thank you for coming, Angie. We also kicked off, I believe, May 19th, the Holyoke program, which was in collaboration with Holyoke Housing and Valley Opportunity Council. And we have about 10 to 12 parents attending. I'm not gonna lie, these sessions, I've been attending several different sessions, right? And I sit through about an hour and a half before I take off. They're kind of impactful. There was one session, I don't want to say what specific session because I don't want to give too many details, but where I sat through the session and parents, some of the parents were talking about self-care, and they were able to recite how they spend their free time and how they get their free time away from their kids. Not to say away from their kids because they don't want to be with their kids, but everyone needs their own time, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to find your own space. And one, I think it was a mom, and then there was a dad, and there was another mom. They all mentioned how they could fall back on a partner or fall back on a parent or a friend. And this one mom came and raised her hand, and she was like, this is kind of baffling to me, right? She was like, my mom left the house when I was 7. And when she left, my dad had me raise my brothers and sisters, right? So from 7 to like 18, I was raising kids. Then she said that when I left the house, I feel like I was lost, right? Leaving the house, I had nothing. So she said that she ended up having a kid, and it brought that sanity back to her. But now she has 3 kids, is 26 years old, and feels like she doesn't know who she is. that right there kind of impacted me where I almost cried. I had to walk out the room for a second. Like, and then the part that got to the next level about the programming is that another mom who was sitting there with her fiance was like, girl, don't worry about it. I'm going to have him watch your kids and I'll take you out. You know, so like that right there in the first session, that was the first day, kind of impacted me in a way where it's like, oh, wow, these programs ain't no joke. Like, you got to be ready when you come here and you get to this space. And for me, that's what it is, man. That's what's going to help community grow. And that's what's going to help us as an organization grow, right? You see things like that happening. People come together and they partner. These are two people that don't know each other from a hole in the wall, right? And one person is extending a hand and even volunteering their fiance to babysit. So I sat there and I was like, I would have had to babysit too. Like, oh, I got it. But yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, these programs are, both groups are, they're all so different, right? Each group is different, but they're both awesome. And the story is already like it's all happening so fast. And so cool to see. I'll just add too, because we're doing this one other piece of work that is probably worth mentioning, definitely worth mentioning as well. So we plan to launch our parent leadership program out here in Western Mass next January, doing some work with parent leadership in the meantime. But we had an opportunity early on to launch our 4 parent leadership trainings with a really great group of women who are part of the organization called Springfield Works that does a lot of economic development, workforce development work in Springfield and surrounding communities. And they wanted to incorporate parent or community voices into their decision-making and got actually grant funding to make that happen in a real way. And so they are assembling a community council, or they have assembled a community council, and really wanted those parents to feel supported before they kind of went into their work for the council. And so we had this great opportunity to work with them, and they're 2 sessions down of the 4. So they're about halfway through those trainings. And when they complete that, they'll be taking on some project-based work in Springfield and hopefully staying involved with us too, as we move into the next phase and need the, kind of more support from parent leaders and parent ambassadors. They'll be on our team as well. So yeah, lots of exciting things happening.
Can I add to that a little bit, Joe?
Yeah.
But I guess what excites me about the parent leadership program too as well is that, like, in Holyoke or in Western Mass in general, I'm sure it's across the country, but schools and a lot of nonprofits are looking for parents and families to engage with them. And this kind of like the parent leadership program allows for this. It helps them build their skills up, helps them build leadership, confidence. And then before you know it, they're running PTO meetings. They're joining advisory boards. This is a great opportunity to at least build civic engagement as well as leadership skills for the parents. That's pretty exciting to me, at least.
Yeah, and that was something that we got. There's so much interest in that work for sure out here.
Jill and Izzy, this is Sue again. I just wanted to, before we open it up to folks in who have joined us today, I just wanted to ask if you would share, Jill or Izzy, either one of you, about next year's plans a little more specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. I can share a little bit about that, and Izzy, feel free to jump in. So we are this year, as Izzy mentioned, so we have the 2 Power of Parenting programs, and then that one set of the leadership trainings that we're doing this year. So this was really like a big ramp up and then kind of kicking off that work. As we go into next year, we're thinking we are going to grow from those 2 Power of Parenting programs to 8. And that's either 3 or 4 in the fall, and then kind of staggering them throughout the year. And then launching the parent leadership program formally, like in a hopefully in person out here in January 2023. We are also kind of working on some other like surrounding work. So building out the alumni program as we start to have alumni, right, who have come through the program. We hope to run 2 alumni events in the spring. We're also hoping to have a fundraising event in the fall So kicking off some of that like back end work and building up our funder partnerships and relationships with local corporations and folks out here who could help drive the work forward. Izzy, am I missing anything?
No, you got it. I think just that, to be honest, whatever work, a lot of work that you guys did in the beginning, I think Jill and Sue together, right? With regards to outreaching and getting the community to know who Families First is, as well as some of my networking has allowed for future programming, to develop partnerships throughout the communities within Western Mass. And it's not that at one point it was a challenge, right? Meeting with people, getting to know them, introducing ourselves. Now the challenge more or less is like, who are we strategically going to work with that would allow for us to like reach more people, I guess, more or less, which is a good challenge, I guess, and at least for me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You covered everything else.
That's great. So I think what I'll do, first of all, I want to thank both of you. Incredible work you're doing. Angie too, it's nice that you joined us today. Really happy to see you there, here with us today. You know, I think we've all said it before. I mean, this is a big lift, and both of you have taken it on with a lot of skill and really brought us to where we are today. So, you know, I have to thank you both for that. I will highlight what you said, Izzy, about social connection. I think in our evaluation, we have a study going on. What we have found is that social connection is huge for parents, decreasing isolation. It leads to a decrease in stress, concrete resources as well. And that builds resilience. And so we do see that, and it is moving to always hear those stories of families right away, you know, wanting to help each other. I think that's human nature, but it's pretty impressive that it, you know, started right from the beginning of the program. And I'm going to guess, since we see 6 months after our programs that continues, that it will continue out there as well. So I just want to thank you. I want to thank everybody. And then I see there's some hands raised at this point. I'm going to turn it back over, I think, to Amy, who will take on the question and answer or questions and make sure that we answer. Go for it.
Yeah, thanks, Sue. So yeah, as Sue mentioned, I see Lewis here has his hand up, so I'm going to go right to you, Lewis. Feel free to.
Great. I apologize. I got on 10 minutes late because I had another Zoom call. So if this question has been answered, please forgive me. How are these programs in Springfield different than what's being run in the eastern part of Massachusetts? And is there things that you can learn from the different locations to help improve the programming out west?
That's a great question. And we talk about this a lot. Izzy, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So I guess for me, I was trained by Marissa, who is a champ out there in Eastern Mass and has been doing it for quite some time now. So I guess I've been formalizing the model after everything I've learned and trying to make sure that I continue on that same route and path. I think where a little bit of improvement can have, or where I could improve, is actually attending a couple of the programs out there to see if there is any difference to what we're doing right now, right? Right now, what we're doing is going through the processes and trying to get the kinks out, right? And this is not necessarily the kinks with recruiting and stuff like that, because the numbers are there. It's just learning myself and the parent educator, right? And the relationship that we have together, then our relationship with the parents, and ensuring that whatever we're delivering for the curriculum is in continuity with what's being done out there in Boston, right?
Yeah.
We're not trying to do anything different. I'm not the guy that reinvents the wheel. I'm the guy that takes the wheel, puts it on, and I'll fix a flat tire. Like, let's get it rocking.
And I'll add too, like, I think, yeah, like we're taking the program model and we're replicating it. But we're also like really aware that every community is different, right? Like Izzy and I talk a lot about this. Like it's not one size fits all. And it's a really, like, the program is centered on people, like there's the parent leaders, the parenting educators, the parents in the program, like it's all about, there's not a lot else to it, right? It's like a bunch of people in a room. And that means that that's going to be different depending on where you are. And so it's a formal model like that we're using, right? But it's also not super rigid. So I think part of what's ahead of us too for this coming year is thinking about where are those places that we can adapt, where we keep it the same, we're evaluating it the same, we're meeting all that criteria, but we're meeting the needs of the community and adapting it to the community too.
Yeah, I think, go ahead, Izzy. Yeah.
Real quick, because the culture and demographics are different from Springfield to Holyoke.
Yeah.
Just that alone, like going from Springfield to Holyoke, the culture and demographics are really different. So like some of the stuff we can take on and implement it easily. Some of it we've tried to implement and you can feel like it's not catching on as easier or as it should, right? So then the beauty of it is the flexibility of being able to, adjust at any time you need.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're really learning. And I think what we hope to learn, and then I'll let it go to the next question, is how that works and how it works. What are the central office roles that, we should maintain that can support these regional offices, these regional locations, and also what maybe ultimately needs to be owned by that regional, site. So, and I think that's a big piece of learning we're doing and really have come up against it in many ways. I mean, even there's a lot, there's evaluation, there's training, there's budget management, there's development work. And we're always looking at, okay, what pieces really can be managed and operated at the regional location and what are we supporting? And we're going in the beginning with a lot more support, right? The central office is playing a key and critical role, as we should be, in supporting this work out there. There will come a time, I think, when Jill and Izzy, will feed back to us like, okay, well, these are the things that I think we would probably need to do locally more, because it would both be more efficient from a resource standpoint, and it also would run better. And there is that natural tipping point when that'll happen. And I can see that even with development, right? How many grants you write, local fundraising, things like that where you might need someone who's really owning that locally to make that happen and own those relationships. So, and as a capacity perspective, there's only so much we have also in our office once this grows. So we're looking very closely at that. It's a good question, Louis.
Great, thank you, everyone. Angelina, I see you have your hand up, so if you have a question, please feel free.
It's not more of a question, it was more of a input. So I'm a parent educator in the Springfield area. Absolutely love my position. I love what I do. I love people. I love the community. I mean, there's nothing I don't love about my position. But what's interesting about my position is that not only am I a parent educator, but I'm also a parent. So I feel like I have the best of both worlds. Like, yeah, I'm a parent educator, but I'm also those families that come to visit and sit with me and express whatever they may be going through. And as well as learning the curriculum as well. And as we're getting, like, next week will be session 5, we're starting to build like a really tight unit amongst each other. Like, we're really sharing things, we're really giving each other opinion, supporting each other, sharing resource. And it's absolutely beautiful to witness how close we're coming. But then things are popping up, like yesterday, after my session with my families, I thought about father groups, a group for just dads where they could come together and speak about things they want to talk about without the children and the wives being there. And what's interesting is something that came up yesterday that I felt like not only did we have to talk about, but it was like necessary, and the dads that were there really appreciate that I advocated for them. But like, speaking about mental health in men, and how men of color, or just men period, have a hard time reaching out for professional help. And it was just really interesting. And they both looked at me like they were really happy that I brought it up. And it's something that dads want to talk about, but they didn't feel like talking about it there was appropriate. But you could tell that if they just had like a father group where dads could come together and it would just be the men, I think it would be like really cool to witness, but like maybe something we could have in the future as we grow.
And Angie, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And I think like I wanted to say this earlier too, in when we think about adapting something to a community, like the parenting educators are like, you are the person that's doing that. You're in the room, you're hearing everybody, you're getting all the different perspectives and feedback, right? And then you're responding in a way. You have what we offer to you, the curriculum and the materials and the structure and everything, right? But like, you're such an important piece of this whole thing. So thank you for sharing your perspective.
Thanks, Angie. That was awesome to hear just a little bit about what goes on in the room too. Love that. All right, so our next question here, Jill, you touched a little bit on this about, I know you named a couple of the partners that you're working with in Western MA, but this question here is just asking again a little bit more about those organizations that you're working with and how you're collaborating.
Sure, yeah, so for those of you who are less familiar with Families First partnership model, we have like a few different ways that we partner with organizations. So we have a host partner, right, who would be the one that where we're running programs at their site, and they are collaborating with us to provide the childcare and the food or other things to kind of make the program happen. They provide the space, and we are running in person, which was a shift back for us as an organization. Those host partners play a really important role. So for us right now, we're partnering with HMR, which is a housing management organization that is operating in Springfield. So that's at their Bay Street housing location. That's where Angie is. And then in Holyoke, it's a partnership between Valley Opportunity Council, which runs a daycare center in the Churchill neighborhood in Holyoke. And then actually the room we're in is, and the kind of other side of the building is owned by Holyoke Housing Authority. So they've actually come in as a partner. The Housing Authority has actually come in to help with recruitment as well. So we kind of have both of those partners as our like primaries in the Holyoke program. And then in Holyoke, I'll also mention too, because I love this part of it. We have Learn in Motion as another partner they provide learning through play curriculum for kids. It's run by this guy, Coach Chris. He's awesome. And he is doing, so the childcare component is essentially his curriculum. And so that kind of gets the kids excited to come out. It also gets all of their energy out. So by the time that they're done, they'll probably go home and crash, which is good for the parents. And then there's a lot of other folks that and Springfield Works, I mentioned, there's a lot of organizations that have been feeders for us. So the public schools in Springfield and Holyoke have been amazing and really helping us get the word out to families, and lots of other organizations that have kind of rallied behind this in the community and kind of pushed our flyers out and things like that. And then we have a lot of potential partnerships that are organizations we're meeting with to think about next year. Is there anything you want to add?
I think I would add just a brief description of Valley Opportunity Council of what they do on a larger scale, right? They do run the daycare that we're running. Well, the daycare where we're running the program is shared space. It's Boys and Girls Club space where the Holyoke Housing owns it, and the next door is VOC, Valley Opportunity Council, runs their daycare, and they own that section. So that's why Holyoke Housing is a collaborator as a partner, because they're all in the same shared space. But they would still be a partner or a collaborator anyways, because they have kids and they want to kind of be a part of the movement, right? But I guess for the highlighting the VOC space is that our situation with the partnership with them is that they kind of provide childcare throughout all of Holyoke and Chicopee. So they have a huge reach on parents 0 to 3 and 3 to 8. So our collaboration with them doesn't just stem only on this particular program. It will grow larger because they run programs. They have daycares in Chicopee, 2 different sites in Chicopee. They have like 5 different sites in Holyoke. And then they probably give licenses to home daycares throughout all of Western Mass. So they have over like 100 and something home daycares, which for us as an organization to do outreach and bring parents in for programming, it's kind of a win-win type of a partnership.
So I think this next question is a great question to end on and close this out with. So Jill and Izzy, as you're thinking about next year, what are the things that that the Western really needs for this next phase of work?
What we really need for this next phase. Yeah, I mean, I think, well, I can start and then Izzy, I'll hand it to you too. So right in front of us, I think for going into this next year is we really want to build a local advisory council. So we have a lot of decisions to make, right? So, we presented a lot and this we've had a lot of success so far. We also have challenges and we also have things to work through and a lot to kind of figure out as we make decisions going forward. And we would love to have, a subset of community leaders from different aspects of the community to kind of come together in an advisory council to work with Izzy and I on some of this stuff, and then also with our central office. So ideally then having some folks from that advisory council sit on our board and be more involved with the larger Families First organization. And so if anyone on this call is out here in Western Mass and interested in that, let me know. Or also if you want to recommend people that you think this might be a good opportunity for them and for us, that would be great. We'll also be doing some fundraising out here. So always thinking about that and any kind of help with that work is appreciated. And really input, like any thoughts, if you see a model that is working well, that, or you see a program that's growing that you think we could learn from, like, I would love to hear really we didn't end the learning phase, right? It didn't stop when we started implementing. It's like ongoing. So I would say that. And Izzy, anything you want to add?
I think for me, aside from funding, right? Because funding is always something that we would need. I think some partnerships with possible restaurants or possible incentive-based organizations. So that way, I feel like when the parents graduate, like we spoke to the Children's Museum in Holyoke, it's trying to figure out if we can give parents free passes for a year and bring their kids to the Children's Museum. And at the same time, possibly allow for them to be able to take their family out for a dinner or something like that, that's donated from the restaurant as a partnership or collaboration or whatnot. There's a variety of different ways that we could kind of incentivize parents, not for coming, but for at least being like congratulating them, awarding them, giving them their space to be able to go out as a family and do that stuff. But we would need partners that would be willing to jump on with us to help us do that. Because for me, then that's where the impact, like not only are we impacting through the program, but we're also impacting it in a different social, how do you say it? I can't think of the word right now, it's escaping me, but
those kind of things tie us into the community more too. Yeah.
Right.
So we're trying to think about, like, when you think about making it local, like, and bringing like the local aspects, I think that's huge, right? Like
quality of life is the word I'm looking for. There you go, the phrase. There you go.
Sue, anything else you want to add on that note bigger picture things that would be helpful?
No, I mean, I should just let folks know, I think as an organization, obviously we are incredibly excited about this work and the opportunity to bring what we know is really great programming to new communities to reach more families is something we really care about. I think I'd probably be remiss if I didn't say anything. We all know that recent events that have gone on for the past couple of weeks have had a huge impact on even locally the communities where we work. We have received more, I think calls and asks about how to talk to children about what's going on in this country, which I'm not 100% sure I have any of us has all the explanations in the world, although Maureen O'Brien, who's a PhD, did on our team, early childhood expert, did put something out yesterday about talking to your children during a time like this. But even one parent leader said to us recently, it's hard to put my kids to sleep at night, thinking about what's going on in the world. And so, I think we think a lot about that and how we play a critical role in supporting families during what has been an incredibly stressful time, with the pandemic and I think the pandemic, frankly, of violence in our communities. So, this is something that we're fully aware of and try to think about. So as we enter this year, I think we will do a little more. This will be giving us an opportunity to do a little more planning and thinking about regional expansion and how that could work in other communities. This is a huge learning experience, as Jill said, and Izzy echoed as well. And, I think because of all the good planning and the excellent team that's out there have launched rather successfully. I'm sure I always say to folks, we've been, things are working out. There, of course, are things that are challenges along the way. But this team is great at saying, yep, that's a challenge, and we're going to figure out how to make it across that, and hopefully learn along the way. As you both said, you play a critical role, I think, in informing the rest of the team here about things that do need to be adapted or changed out there. But really looking forward to an exciting year ahead, as we continue to grow this work and then think about how that informs what we do going forward in new regions. So thank you both. And thank you everyone for coming today. What is a very busy time, I know, for everyone.
Yeah, we so appreciate it. And I want to give kudos to Jill and Izzy for sharing all of this with us today. They've done such incredible work over the past year. So hopefully everyone feels like they got to know our new team members a little bit better, and you were brought along on the journey as we, made this critical leap to Western Mass, which has just been a really exciting time for Families First. So the last thing I just want to mention quickly is that our annual event, which is called Envision 2022 this year, it's formerly known as the Breakfast Benefit, is coming up not so soon, but I think it'll sneak up on us on November 17th. And so for those of you who have attended in the past, it's really a new concept. So it'll be an evening event held at the Warrior Ice Arena with, a lot of time for families to have fun together. And also some Bruins alumni will be participating in the event. So we're looking forward to that, and we hope you all can join us. And thanks again for coming today. We appreciate it. So
thank you, everyone.
Thank you.